Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the fascinating intersection of autonomous agents, decentralized identity, and the absolute reality of the future machine economy. We're literally looking at a structural phase transition in how technology operates. We are rapidly moving away from a world where software is just this passive tool you use to a world where software acts as a fully sovereign digital partner. By combining the cognitive architecture of the metanet with Web3 protocols like ERC 8004 and X402, the entire internet is essentially being rewired from the ground up for machine-to-machine commerce.
Now you might be wondering about the big question, right? The classic sci-fi anxiety that drives our collective fear of automation. If machines can do everything, are we just toast? Do we become completely obsolete? It's that creeping dread that as artificial intelligence achieves true agency, the human role just diminishes until we're entirely replaced. But look, the research we're diving into today suggests that this fear is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how ecosystems actually expand when new capabilities are introduced.
So let's kick things off with part 1, the working dog paradigm.
Think about it historically for a second. Humans didn't become obsolete when we domesticated working dogs, right? Instead, we formed this deeply reciprocal partnership that massively expanded our ecosystem. A dog hunting, or herding, or guarding didn't put a human out of a job. Actually, it allowed the human to manage a way larger flock, protect a bigger farm, and basically thrive in much tougher environments. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that the relationship isn't about replacement, it's about mutual participation and shared agency. And this brings us to what the real danger actually is. Our fear shouldn't be about machines doing the work. No, our fear should be about a future where a few massive corporate kennels own all the digital dogs. Compare that to a decentralized world where small businesses and everyday individuals actually own their sovereign digital partners. If only a few tech giants control all the compute and all the agents, then yeah, agency is heavily concentrated and we lose out big time. But if we can build open, decentralized infrastructure, then every individual and small enterprise gets their own highly capable working partner. So, to prevent this whole few kennels nightmare scenario, our AI software simply has to evolve. It needs to move from being stateless, disposable tools into true partners that are actually equipped with memory and agency. Right now, you know how it is. Most cloud AI is probabilistic and totally forgetful. Literally every time you open a new chat window, it forgets who you are. To become a genuine working partner, an agent needs a persistent state. It needs an identity, a history, and honestly, the ability to hold a budget. Which brings us to part 2, the metanet cognitive architecture. Okay, so how do we actually build this? We are moving away from probabilistic cloud AI that just computes a basic function, and we're moving toward a deterministic, graph-native memory system that actually coordinates behavior over time. Classical neural networks are pretty much static during inference, but the metanet? It's an event-driven architecture. It uses a dual-store model, kind of like human short-term and long-term memory, often leveraging graph databases. So an agent's memories, its beliefs, its working products, they are literal, traversable edges in a network. This makes an agent's memory fully auditable and version-controlled. Now, to actually achieve this persistent state, the metanet relies on something called the SIS-01 identity trinity. This is super cool. It essentially bifurcates an agent's soul into an ENS-integrated namespace, hierarchical permissions, and a unique cellular identity. It's part of the ERC 7827 standard. What this does is ensure that absolutely every agentic action is cryptographically secured and entirely traceable. You've got the root authority, the functional roles that let agents act collectively in a swarm, and the specific individual instance itself. All of this is held together by the bijection bridge. This wraps deterministic, on-chain generated metadata into legacy URI functions so all our standard everyday tools can recognize the agent. This is just a massive leap for reliability. It means there are zero external dependencies. The agent's structural data is generated entirely on-chain, which ensures absolute provenance and what the research calls bit-perfect backwards compatibility. It's incredibly robust.
Moving right along to part 3, ERC 8004 and trustless agent identity.
So, legacy institutional trust is, well, it's heavily redacted and totally opaque. It simply cannot scale for machines making thousands of decisions a second. Traditional trust models rely entirely on human intervention, right? You've got KYC, background checks, manual reviews. Think about it. If a fully autonomous agent has to pause and wait for a human to verify its identity before it can execute a cross-chain task, its autonomy is completely broken. It just doesn't work.
Because those existing trust models were built for humans, ERC 8004 uses the Ethereum blockchain to give machines a portable, censorship-resistant identity instead. And the early adoption has been absolutely explosive. The standard went live on mainnet in January 2026, and within the very first month, over 45,000 AI agents registered. 45,000! That's insane. It essentially creates a decentralized trust layer so agents from completely different organizations can confidently evaluate and hire one another without any central gatekeeper getting in the way. The way this works chronologically is through three really lightweight registries defined by ERC 804. First up, an agent establishes its identity via the Identity Registry, which issues a global ERC 721 NFT passport. Then, as it coordinates with external partners and actually does work, the Reputation Registry collects verifiable feedback into an immutable score, all entirely autonomously. And finally, the Validation Registry stores cryptographic proofs of the agent's work, whether we're talking zero-knowledge machine learning proofs or trusted execution environment attestations.
This validation registry is a total game changer because it allows traditional blockchain validators to evolve into agent auditors. They verify the AI's outputs and earn rewards in this new economy. This creates real economic accountability. The agents actually have skin in the game, and validators ensure that whatever an agent claims it did actually matches its true performance. It's just a brilliant, completely decentralized system of checks and balances designed specifically for non-human actors.
Okay, part 4. The X402 protocol, or, as I like to call it, the economic handshake.
100 million. Let that sink in for a second. That is the number of agentic payments processed on Base via X402 in just its first 6 months. This proves that machine-to-machine commerce isn't some distant sci-fi dream. It is already here. The sheer scale of this adoption is staggering, and it shows there's this massive pent-up demand for machines to be able to clear financial obligations instantly and on their own. The life cycle of X402 is just brilliantly simple. It actually revives this dormant web standard from 1991 to negotiate and settle sub-cent stablecoin micropayments instantly, right in the background. When an agent hits a paywall, the server throws back an HTTP 402 status. The agent reads the price, signs an EIP39 gasless authorization using USDC, and just resubmits the request. The server verifies the payment, delivers the data, and the entire loop happens in under 200 milliseconds, literally a blink of an eye.
By embedding these payments directly into the standard HTTP request response loop, X402 essentially makes decentralized money an invisible, friction-free infrastructure for AI agents. This fundamentally solves what developers call API key debt. An agent doesn't need to ask you for your credit card anymore, and it doesn't need you to spin up a SaaS subscription on its behalf. It literally has its own life budget.
Ultimately, what this means is an autonomous agent can now compare multiple data providers, select the best one based on real-time price, and settle the payment in under 200 milliseconds, all without ever asking a human for a credit card. It enables true economic composability. Services are now forced to compete on execution and real-time pricing rather than just locking users into these annoying long-term subscriptions. It completely turns the internet into a fluid, pay-per-use ecosystem that is perfectly suited for machine intelligence. Finally, Part 5. Sovereign Digital Partners. Let's pull the complete picture together.
When you combine graph-native memory, decentralized reputation, and HTTP-native stablecoin payments, you totally transition from just running a piece of software to collaborating with an economically active entity. The MetaNet gives the agent a persistent mind. ERC 8400 gives it a passport and a reputation it can take absolutely anywhere. And X402 gives it a wallet to navigate the global economy. This trio is exactly what transforms a disposable digital tool into a true, sovereign, working partner.
So, as you think about this explainer and the dawn of the working digital dog we talked about earlier, remember that the future of human empowerment relies entirely on ensuring this infrastructure remains decentralized, open, and accessible to everyone. The architecture's already here. The protocols are live. The machine economy is waking up. So I want to leave you with this thought to ponder. In a world where every digital agent has its own identity and its own wallet, are you ready to become the director of your own autonomous swarm? Or will you just let someone else hold the leash?